the most powerful about a coaching session, what I love so much about it, is that I'm able to create that safe space for my client, for them to just be fully with what comes up, and they don't even have to know themselves what it's actually about. I always say it's like we are investigating together. We're just becoming curious. How do I, as a coach, help my clients to be able to go deeper than they have ever been with themselves, or to meet them where they're able to go? I don't believe that there are too many coaches. I just believe that there is room for becoming better and better and better coaches. And also, I believe many more people understand the power of coaching as well.
Hi, and welcome to this new episode of the Lightleaders. Today, I'm really excited to have Joelle van Harten on the show, and we'll talk about coaching. Are there too many coaches? What is coaching? How powerful it is? And for the listener, we'll put chapters below so you can also navigate directly to the part that interests you the most. Joelle, you teach coaches, facilitators, and heart-led leaders to advance their coaching skills and build their coaching business with confidence and success. I've actually attended in person a 5-day training here in Bali with you, which was amazing. So I'm really excited to have you today. My first question to you is, what are you grateful for today?
Oh, I love that question. Well, first of all, I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. And what am I grateful for in general? Honestly, about a lot of things. I feel like the practice to connect to gratitude is something that I try to incorporate daily. So, yeah, just to be alive, basically.
Amazing. Yeah. Simple and powerful. So let's get into our topic today, which is coaching. And can you give a little bit of background on yourself into how you got into coaching?
Yeah, absolutely. So I studied psychology, and after I finished my studies, I went traveling, and I realized that I felt I was missing to work with people one-on-one more. I was mostly working for mental health institutions, working with groups with people with autism and mental health issues. And I realized that one, I wanted to have more freedom in my life. And two, I felt like working one-on-one with people was really my jam. And I really loved that so much. And it was also a time that I was diving a lot into my own personal development. And I realized that we don't always have to work with people who have like severe mental issues, but I can also work with people who want to optimize their life as well. And this is why I love to combine coaching and therapy, so I can work on all of the different layers. And I feel that because I've dived so deep into coaching, I was able to help people optimize their life and thrive in every single area of their life. And my interest for that was just like, yeah, I can I can do this for my whole life. I'm very excited about it.
Amazing. Thank you. Actually, coaching, let's talk about the word in itself, because coaching is kind of an umbrella term where it's some people are more into therapy, some people are more counselors, some people are more mentors or teachers. So we can think in sports, for example, your coach gives you strategies, or in business coaching, often there's also a lot of mentorship actually. So it's often of a blend. When I came to your coaching, it's like, as you said, a little bit more therapy, maybe a little bit more counseling. So do you want to share a little bit more about the, let's say, the type of coaching that you do?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I was honestly curious about it as well when I just started I specialized in psychodynamic coaching and therapy, and that was a post-bachelor degree that I could do after my studies in psychology. And I was curious about all of the different ways of coaching and forms of coaching. And it was especially when I already had my coaching business and I was already working for corporate companies as a psychodynamic coach and therapist, that I found out that there are so many coaches doing like very like specialized ways of coaching before, for example, like business coaching or like relationship coaching. But because my study came from psychology and then it was a specialization in psychodynamic coaching and therapy, it was very related to working on a very deep layer with people. And therefore, I was a little bit surprised when I came into this new world of conscious communities that so many people were coaches, but I felt like the depth is sometimes a little bit missing. And there's not any problem with that, because I believe that we are learning, and we often people who are supporting other people, naturally they are attracted to that. It's like naturally they attract people who are interested to working with them, and then they start to become a coach. But because I came from this different background where education was very important, accreditation was very important, that was like a new world for me. And I realized, oh, there's so many different forms of coaching. So I would say that the coaching, that what my background is psychodynamic coaching and therapy. Along the way, I've been also incorporating a lot of different kind of modalities and specializing in different kind of modalities, like, for example, relationship coaching and also subconscious mind reprogramming, which I touched upon in my postgraduate degree, but not in the depth that I studied later in my life. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you for these distinctions. Actually, when I was at your training, I think I was coming more from a coaching. I was doing health coaching, which is obviously more around the mentoring. It's a blend. And my understanding is, yeah, the coaching part, often coaches have actually two hats, coaches and mentors. And that's what I do in my practices. I think a lot of people do like this, a lot of coaches, which is sometimes they're in the coach role, which is usually more asking questions and letting people having their answer. And sometimes it's like, okay, now I'll put my mentor hat. Well, on that topic, I'm knowledgeable, and I would suggest maybe you want to do that, or you could do that. How does that land?
I just love that you paid such a good attention, because in the training I've been explaining very clear my perspective on the difference between coaching and mentorship and therapy and teaching. And I think it's really useful to know these different kind of roles, because when we are coaching, it's very helpful to understand what is coaching actually about. And most people who are coaching, they're actually, from my perspective, mentoring, and that is something different.
Yeah, can you share in a nutshell then, mentor, coach, therapy, and there was another one, like what where the differences?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm also curious about your perspective, like how you see the difference now. Like mentorship is basically, for example, if I help someone with growing their coaching business, because I grew my own coaching business, then I'm mentoring them in something that I embodied in my life. So I grew in something specific, for example, in this example, growing my own business, coaching business, and then I'm helping other people to grow their business. This is not coaching, this is mentorship, because people hire me as a mentor. For example, right now in the coaching academy that you've done, I'm in my mentor role, and I apply coaching when I have like coaching sessions in the training, but in generally I'm in a mentor role. However, when I'm coaching and I'm working with clients one-on-one, or even in a group, when I'm coaching, it's a very specific art, I would say. It's actually I see it as an art form, and this is why I'm so excited about, because I've been coaching for over 8 years, and even though I've tapped into a lot of different modalities, I still come back to that coaching is such a puzzle piece in the healing journey and in the human optimization process, that I believe honestly that for everyone it's useful to understand that on a very deep level. Even when you're not working professionally as a coach, it will help you so much in your romantic relationship, in your relationship as a parent, like with your family members. I feel like knowing the art of coaching and being able to apply it, it's really optimizing every single area of your life.
Thank you. And can you touch upon the two others? I think it was teaching and therapy, and the difference with that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Teaching, when you're teaching something, you don't necessarily have to be embodied in it. Then it's mentorship. So mentorship is like more practical and also coming more from an embodied place. I can teach something that I've read in a book, but I don't have to have embodied it in my own life.
I'll give an example if that's fine. Like if you go to entrepreneurship school or a class of entrepreneurship in business school, you might have a teacher that never started a company.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is also one of the reasons why a lot of us feel like in high school or like even in primary school, there was not so much excitement about our teachers because it felt like it didn't come from an embodied space. Imagine if we have like mentors instead of teachers who are like really mentoring us on something that they embodied and that they grow in their own life. It comes from such a more exciting and passionate and also wisdom, from a place of wisdom as well. And so to touch upon the last one that I spoke about is the therapy. So I've been professionally trained in coaching and therapy. So what I'm teaching in my trainings is also to be able to understand, okay, when are we going into a therapeutic space and when it's beneficial to go there, and how also do we integrate that, and are we coming back to coaching as well? So in a coaching journey with a client, or in I would say like when you have a personal development journey with your client, you can apply all of these different roles. So even though I'm teaching in coaching, I'm also teaching in mentorship as well, and in therapy as well, and to be able to learn how to differentiate those different roles and how to use them in the right way. For example, to give a clear example about that, a lot of clients during the sessions, they will ask me, okay, how is this for you? But how useful is it if I say at that moment, I give them an answer like how did I do that in my life? It's much more useful for them to come to their own answers first, and then in the end of the session I can speak from my own experience. And this can also come from a piece of resistance as well. If clients ask in the middle of the session like, oh, how is this for you, how would you do this, it can be a resistance to go very deep with it and come to their own answer. So then my job as a coach is to guide them back to their internal space and to find their own answers. And I'm guiding them through that process. Even though I could answer that question of like, oh, how did I do that in my own life? Or like, what is my perspective on that? I choose to, at that moment, to go into that later, maybe in the end of the session, if I feel it's relevant. And otherwise, I'm continuing back into the coaching role.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing this. And actually, I'd love to dive deeper into the power of that in the next chapter. Just on this, just to finish with the coaching and the therapy. So I think you mentioned also when we were doing the training, therapy is often more about something in the past to heal, while coaching is a little bit more towards goals, right? Would you align with that?
Yeah, I would like to elaborate on that. That, for example, I often see a therapeutic space when a client comes with something, or when we are in the coaching journey and we realize there's, for example, trauma involved, or there's something coming up that is very strong and needs a bit more attention, then we can go into a therapeutic space. And that can be integrated and healed in one session, but can also take a whole journey of like 4 or 5 or 6 sessions, or even longer, depending on the topic and depending on the person. Going into a therapeutic space can be a part of a coaching session, and can also be that it's fully focused on that. And when do we need to fully focus on that? It's when it's like intervening so much into their daily life, it's like their functioning is like really depriving like from their life force energy and from their optimization of their human being, of their growth process, because this trauma or this difficulty is so strong that we need to focus more attention on that.
Okay, thank you. Last one I'd like to have your definition on is counseling. Where would you put counseling into that?
Counseling. Yeah, so this is an interesting question because there's different definitions and they are being used in different ways. But counseling, I would see that more as like how do you cope with something? So really focus on the coping mechanism. So when we have a certain behavior, there's a lot of different coping mechanisms that are related to that behavior. For example, you want to stop eating sugar, but it's so difficult because you have tried so many different detoxes. I'm just speaking in terms that might interest also your community. Yeah, it's like you want to like detox from sugar, but it's so difficult. And every time you're in a restaurant and you see that like chocolate cake, you just feel like you need to eat it. And maybe that is related to a coping mechanism of having difficulty to process and feel your emotions. So then we are working on that, and we are not working on specifically the habit of the detoxing from sugar, but we're working on the underlying process. And I would say that is like a counseling space.
Okay, thank you. Amazing. So now going into the power of coaching and letting people come up with their own answers. I've experienced that during your training. I feel it helped me give more depth to the coaching I'm doing, which is coaching, mentoring, and is often also quite strategy driven. But it's really like sometimes you have a strategy, but then it's like, what's preventing? You don't need more strategy. You have a block, or you have a sabotage or limiting belief, and that's where these tools, I feel, for my practice from experience, have been really helpful. I've also experienced while I was receiving the coaching, how powerful it was to come up with my own answers. Yeah, you talked about the art of coaching, Joelle. What is the art of coaching?
I'm curious, how would you define, before the training that you've done with me and after the training, how would you define coaching differently after the training?
Yeah, I would say after the training, I would say definitely the art of asking powerful questions that empower the client to come up with their own truth. In your case, in the case of the training we did, it was also like to really learn about themselves and to make changes from a subconscious place.
Yes.
It wasn't just the strategy we came to. It was about the state of being that I was in at the end of the session. So maybe it's the same strategy, but then I felt really empowered. I felt that elevated sense of being that we know is super important for manifestation. We manifest from that place of feeling and knowing, not just from a rational idea of what the strategy should be. So that was really powerful, and that's how I would twist my perception of coaching since then.
Amazing. I love that. Yeah, and I also really love to witness your growth in that, both like professionally and personally as well. Yeah. So I would say the art of coaching, why I'm so passionate about this is because it never gets boring. Like as I said, I've been coaching for over 8 years with so many different kind of clients and different nationalities, cultures, different topics in their lives that they're working with. And the reason why it's so powerful is because I believe that, yes, it's really good to learn are we doing our inner work ourselves individually without being dependent on anyone else. Like there's such a big power in that, where meditation comes into place, where reflection and contemplation comes into play, shadow work, all of these different modalities that we can utilize in our own private space. And I also believe that as humans, our group beings, like we are group animals basically. It's like we are thriving in groups and in connection, and this is also why our family systems and where we grew up and our context is so important and so impactful. It's because we are learning in connection with other people, and this is why coaching is so powerful. It's because true connection with a professional coach and somebody that you feel safe with and is able to guide you in a beautiful process where you come to your own answers and you're able to heal, to grieve. Often healing is about grieving about needs and desires that has been unmet, maybe in the past as kids when we were children, but also right now in our lives. Maybe we have different expectations from ourselves, how our life look like, and there's a grief process around that, but there's also an empowerment process as well. So even though we know how to grieve ourselves and how to forgive and how to do all of these, how to apply all of these powerful tools and methods in our own life, the power to do this with somebody else, I just experienced that this goes much faster and it's much more effective, because when somebody is there that we fully trust and is able to hold space for us, and we have the time as a client to just be fully like seen and heard and everything. It's like the most powerful about a coaching session. What I love so much about it is that I'm able to create that safe space for my clients, for them to just be fully with what comes up, and they don't even have to know themselves what it's actually about. It's like I always say, it's like we are investigating together. We're just becoming curious. We're becoming curious about your subconscious. We're becoming curious about what happened in your life, about where you want to go. And it's with that openness and with that curiosity where the power comes in, that the client is able to discover new parts of themselves, to understand themselves better, to understand the environment better, and to know that where they want to go in their life.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you. I love that you talk about that curiosity. I remember in the training you talk about what makes a good coach is being curious, being non-judgmental. I think it was something else, and it kind of removes also the pressure from the coach point of view that you need to figure out everything, to have all the answers. You're just there asking the questions, being interested, being non-judgmental, and that makes it easier.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes, for sure.
Amazing. On a manly perspective, I will share also, because you mentioned that it's gonna help your life and your relationships potentially. In general, when you look into being a good man in a relationship, one of the teaching is don't try to always solve the problem. Sometimes what she wants is to be heard and you to be curious. So I think that's a really good practice on top of it, especially for men, for relationship, to be there, ask questions, be curious, rather than trying to go straight to the point and solving a situation.
I think that's very valuable. That's why I'm saying this is good for everyone, and for women as well. I mean, it's like I love it because apart from like the curiosity, there's so many tools and techniques and modalities that we can use in the process that is helping the client to get to know more about themselves and also to reprogram their subconscious as well. So there's different phases in coaching, and I'm curious, do you remember what the different phases were, or maybe you can share a little bit about what you learned about that?
Yes, I mean, we were looking at the core, I think, the first thing, like what's the core, and then looking at the belief, potentially changing the belief then, and then looking into empowerment and goals phases. So it's like, instead of being just, okay, what's your goal? Okay, that's the strategy. It's like you come up with something, you look into potential belief, and at the end of that, you work on the empowerment and the goal.
Yeah, absolutely. Because often people already know what they want in their life. They're very clear. If you give them a paper and they need to write, you're giving them the opportunity to write down what they want in their life. They know, oh, I want to have a thriving relationship. I want to be super healthy. I want to live in a beautiful, peaceful environment. I want to have a thriving business. They know what they want, but it's the blockages that are in the way, right? It's like, that's why I'm saying it can be so effective and so much more efficient, because we all have a lot of self-sabotaging behavior and imposter syndrome, and this is just a general human trait. Some have more, some less in certain areas, but we all find it sometimes difficult to get out of our comfort zone and to really become that version of ourselves that we want, and then we can get disappointed, and coaching can help to really track your process of growth and also to optimize that process as well. As I shared, for example, if somebody goes through a grief process about the loss of a person, then it's so beautiful if I can, as a coach, support that client with integrating and processing that grief, so that instead of like 2 years of very active and intense grief triggers coming up, that maybe it will be a half year, and then of course it's still, the loss is still there, but the sharpness of that grief process, which is a part of the process, that is integrated, and then it's a much softer process. And also in relation to your goals, and if you look more at like the strategy and empowerment of goal setting and goal achievement, if there's limiting beliefs are coming up and they are preventing us, we are going into like avoidance and like thinking that we are making the right choices towards our goals and our dreams, but it takes so long, or it's like coming with a lot of difficulty and challenge and like pushing and everything like that, then coaching can help to make that process much smoother and also much more efficient and effective.
Amazing. Yeah, I love that. I love that. And on a personal note, I think as the people I work with are mainly, let's call that awakened leaders. They're people who have generally made a lot of work on themselves. But, you know, there's always something. So I've actually incorporated it, but in a way that we kind of start with the strategies and the goal. Let's say they want to build a business. And sometimes it's going to be quite easy to go there. But then sometimes it's going to be obvious that, oh, actually, it's not the strategy. It's like there's a mental block here, there's a limiting belief here, there's a self-sabotage coming up here. And
Yeah.
so then I have the tools to pause, go into it, and then we can go back to the strategy. So it's been really valuable in that way. Even though I still sometimes do sessions that are more purely strategic when I feel there's not as much the need to um, go into limiting beliefs, let's say.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think it's just very useful as a practitioner to be able to work on all of the different layers, because I do believe that your client will also go as deep as you're able to take them. And also, and I believe that you are like having this capacity, but it's beautiful to be able to work on all of the different layers and also to know, okay, this person maybe comes for strategy and then there is this blockage. Like, how do we navigate that and how do we work with that and how do we integrate that so that they can achieve their goals more faster and more quickly as well. And also I think it's can be, we can have this idea of like oiling needs to be like heavy, but it's not like that. It's actually like, the
Mm.
interesting thing is that when I start to master more and more and more the process of coaching, it feels like it's almost like playing chess in some way. It's like I make a step, my client makes a step, and then we are like both on the board. We don't know where it's gonna go, but we both have the attention to like, you know, get somewhere beautiful. And then it's like okay, you take a step, I take a step, and it's this like process where we both like fine tuning, okay, where is this gonna go? Yeah, I think that that is that is so beautiful about it, that you are able to work on all of the different layers so that when it's more focused on empowerment, that is beautiful. And if there is something coming up that is like more in more depth, that you're also able to support your client there. And from what I've seen from your process is that you came in as a coach that was mostly focused on strategy, and now after training you're also able to meet your clients in more depth when that is necessary, when it's helpful.
Exactly. Thank you. And yeah, there's been a difference before after the training, which before indeed I was maybe uncomfortable or not really able to go into those spaces with the client, and that's felt by the client. And so now I have that confidence to go there if we need to.
Yes, and then also to work with projections, with resistance. Often clients, maybe they already know where also their resistance comes from or where their self-sabotaging behavior comes from. But then to be able to fully be with that, to be able to process the emotions that are attached to that behavior, that is another step. And it's very normal for us people to have resistance coming up, even during coaching sessions, even if we have the attention to go deep. How do I, as a coach, help my clients to be able to go deeper than they have ever been with themselves, or to meet them where they're able to go when we really pay attention and have presence and be there with unconditional love for anything that is present in their consciousness and that is coming up to be seen.
Amazing. I love that. And talking about being seen, you talked about being seen, healing. And I think that's a really interesting point. In spiritual communities, there is a lot of the healing that happens alone, right? And which isn't wrong. Like, I love Vipassana. I love the idea of I'm going to go in nature alone for a few days to heal there. I think there's a lot of value in that. Or go meditating when you don't feel as high vibration to then go back into the society to show up as in your highest vibe. But there is also something that feels really good in being seen authentically in our hard moments, in our healings, in our lower vibration, if we can call it like this.
Hmm.
So do you want to share a bit more about that? Because I know you're passionate.
Can speak about this for hours. I feel that as I shared before, I think often we are repeating even patterns of healing. It's like we're healing over and over the same thing. When we don't know how to truly effectively are able to integrate something that is coming up emotionally, which is unprocessed, it can also be that we focus too much on the healing aspect. And that can also be unhelpful in ways. And that can also create difficulty in the process. So that understanding when it's the right phase to focus on. When is it good to focus on something difficult that happens in somebody's life? And when it's also okay to just leave that. Even if it happened, maybe we don't have to touch upon that. And that is one of the most powerful things that the people who done the training give back to me in their feedback, is that they understand better when a client comes, for example, with 5 different topics that they want to work with. I got this question so much: what topic do we choose? And the interesting thing is that through the first process where we investigating and we are curious about the consciousness of our clients and what is the most effective topic to work with, often it's something that they didn't even named. Often it's they come in with something, but actually there is something deeper to it. We're working on that. And then they feel so transformed and they feel so excited and happy because they came in with a question and they realized, it was something that was much deeper. And I've been able to integrate and to process that. And now I feel so much more space in my body. Now I feel so much, because when we create space, like these emotions of joy and lightness, maybe you experience this yourself as well. When you really integrate something, automatically there comes space, and this space is filled with positive emotions and feelings. So to be able to focus on the healing work and the empowerment work in the right balance and in the right way is really important. And if we focus too much on repeating patterns from the past, of repeating certain ideas or limiting beliefs, or even repeating some traumas that we are going into again and again and again, this is not always the most helpful way, not always necessary to know when do we need to address a certain trauma, when it's actually a trauma, and how to focus on that, but at the same time also come back to empowerment and the present moment and the future of this person as well.
Thank you, Joelle. Yeah, so you actually answered on something a little bit different, but which is actually really interesting too, which is when to focus on the healing. When do you get there? And I don't want to go into it too deep, but it is something that to me is alive, because I'm also a big fan of meditation, of being in the present, of reading Eckhart Tolle, and of being like really looking at what's there in the moment rather than creating stories from the mind. Now, I think therapy is really helpful for some people in some cases, but I feel they can be also that creation of the identification through a story that
Absolutely.
might be made worth through going to therapy and obsessing on the healing of that past thing that you could discard from your identity potentially more
Exactly.
easily.
I love how you're saying that. This is exactly what I meant. Yeah.
Thank you. And yeah, on the being seen and healing in community, I think that's great, because it's vulnerable, it gives permission for others also, and deep down you're me and I'm you, so I can see myself through you. Also like the fact that we can do that. It was really powerful during our training to see all of us, especially we're all friends and going deep together. And usually there's a lot of feeling of oneness through that vulnerability that I think can really deepen connection.
Yes. Yes, I love that aspect of the training. It felt like we were in a space where, as I said, like when you're working one-on-one or with a group, it's about the curiosity, and we were also like curious and treating each other with unconditional love and respect and openness, and we all had the same intention to create a safe space with each other. And then it's so beautiful to be seen in everything that comes up and to be able to hold like professional space for each other. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. I'd love to touch upon something you talked about at the beginning, which was the training. So we live in Ubud, and in Ubud it's very common. You're not sure what to do, and you wake up one day and you're like, I know, I'm a coach. which is totally fine, but it is more unregulated space where people from one day to another say they are coaches. You're very different in that regard. Like you've done a lot of trainings. So how do you feel from someone who's been doing a lot of, year-long training and being in a space where people do, 3-day training and start their profession or do none at all? Like, how does it feel? What do you think of that?
Yeah, I love this question because I feel that there can be judgment in the coaching space around that, also from like people in society that are like maybe speaking about that there's so many coaches or there's like overgrowth of coaches. And I personally, as I shared, like for me it has, even I've been studying also different modalities that I'm still applying, like tantra, for example, like yoga, like different forms of therapy and different forms of specialization of coaching. It's just something that stays interesting and stays so beautiful. So I don't think that it's necessary to have like a year-long training like that. I think that you are the person that you bring. And as I said, like you can meet a client as deep as you can meet yourself. So I believe that you will attract the clients that also are a match and in resonance with you based on how you like to work and like on what kind of layers you like to work, or that you are also branding yourself. And I believe that it's not necessary for people to like have a 5-year long therapy training or study. This is why I'm so passionate about the training that I've created, because it came from a request of people around me. People started asking me, hey, I experienced that you are only mostly working through mouth on referrals and mouth on mouth. Like, how do you attract your clients? I'm sharing like, oh, they're just referring me to other people because they have powerful experiences. Wow, how did you learn, or how are you trained in that? And I just, people know my background and experience, and they start asking me to if I can train them. So I realized that there is a gap where people maybe have done some trainings, maybe in yoga, maybe in tantra, maybe in breathwork. Maybe they're already powerful facilitators, but they haven't tapped so deep into the specific coaching modality. And this is something that when I was quite young, I started training specifically in that. And for me, the tantra and the yoga and the breathwork came later. And I was also very interested to be a facilitator in these kind of modalities, or to incorporate them in my practice. However, I started with coaching, and it's always have been my greatest passion. This is why I'm feeling that it's not necessary to have a 5-year long training or even a year-long training. Of course you can, but I think the most important thing is that you're bringing yourself. And what I've done in the training is to incorporate the modalities and the tools and the techniques that I use myself the most after implementing and working with thousands of people in so many different environments. What kind of tools and techniques do I use the most? Because I'm not using everything for my trainings. I'm using the ones that I feel have been most effective. And these are the ones that I share in my training.
Amazing. Thank you, Joelle. And I love your nuanced approach. It's interesting because on my side, I've actually done your training. So I think there is definitely some value in learning how to hold a session, how to structure the coaching. I'm also working with my coach, William, who helps me with that. And at the same time, I've been training my whole life for this,
Yes.
because a lot of the skills are things like presence, things like curiosity, non-judgment. Well, how do you train that? You can train that with meditation. You can train that with being a good partner in your relationship. You can train that with just being there and holding space for friends. So in a way, yeah, I think it's I like both, understanding that coaching is that kind of profession that comes from a lot of life experiences. So like again, I've been training my whole life for it in a way. And at
Yeah.
the same time, I think it's good to add on top of it some more specific trainings.
Yes, absolutely. For example, this morning, um, my partner and I, Manish, we are coaching also each other. And I think this is also interesting to maybe dive a little bit more deeper into, because when I was studying with one of my Tantra teachers, she told me that it's better not to be a coach for your partner. So I was very resistant when I got into my relationship to like coach him. So I was like really like, not doing that at all. I was holding space for him, but not applying the coaching techniques and methods and all of that. And he saw me working with my clients, and one time he asked me about that. And he was like, why are you not applying this with me? And I'm saying like, because I don't want to coach you. Like I don't want to create a polarity where I'm like coaching you. And he was like, oh, but I would love that. And we were incorporating a lot of different like tantra techniques in communication techniques in our relationship, but I wasn't applying the coaching methods and tools that I'm using with my clients. And he asked me if I can apply them and work with him in that way, when something comes up for him. So I started doing that, and honestly, it supported our relationship so much. And then I trained him because he's a medical doctor and he's working with people with mental and emotional health. And he wanted to be trained as well, specifically in coaching, and I trained him. And now he's also helping me when something comes up. And I feel like it could be supportive that he supports me with that as like being in his coaching role. Then we're helping each other in that way as well.
Amazing. Thank you. Yeah, in some therapy, my mother's a psychoanalyst, for example. Yeah, you can't do it with your friend, like that's about, or even someone you know. And I like that you bring a little bit of flexibility. I think it's really good to just have awareness and consent. So in
Yeah.
that case, he asks for it, and the same as you do with your client that you said, sometimes you're in the mentor, sometimes in the coach, and same with a partner. Sometimes we're the cheerleader, sometimes we're a coach, sometimes we're just holding space, and there can be different roles. But it's good to be kind of clear with that, and make sure
Yeah.
it's in alignment with the order. As we're going towards the end of this episode, I'd love to ask you, because we talked about it, are there too many coaches? Because that's something people think everyone's a coach nowadays.
Yeah. My perspective is that coaching is something that you can advance, and this is also why I'm specifically focusing on advancing your coaching skills, because the people that participate in my trainings often are already coaches, but they become better coaches. So I don't believe that there are too many coaches. I just believe that there is room for becoming better and better and better coaches. And also I believe many more people understand the power of coaching as well. And I think we are coming into a time where the understanding about coaching is becoming more and more global, and that people get to experience the results. Like for me, it was as well. I worked with a coach when I was like in the beginning of my 20s to help me to grieve about the loss of my dad, and it helped me so much. Even though I was studying psychology and psychodynamic coaching and therapy, like, and I could apply that on myself, it was helping me so much to work with someone. And I think that a lot of people get that experience, that it's so helpful to be able to. And also, like right now, like when I want to grow my business or in any other area of my life, I still would see if I can work with a professional with that, because I just know the power of it, that it's so much. It's like a personal trainer, you can see like, yes, of course, maybe you already know how to like do the pull-ups and the burpees and all of the like different exercises. And when there is a personal trainer there that is like checking like, how are you like optimizing in a healthy way these practices and these exercises? Are you implementing them in a healthy way? How is your breath? Like, just to be that support and also to help you to get out of your comfort zone and to reach those goals that you have in the gym. The personal trainer is there for support. And this is so effective, right? And this is how I see coaching as well. So in my in my opinion, I think it's beautiful for everyone to find their personal coach that they really resonate with and click with, or to find different people with different specializations. And as I said, like, I think it's helpful for everyone also to like have experience in coaching, because you can support your kids, your partner, like your family dynamics. It's just, I'm curious, how did you grow personally after the training? Because we have spoken about the professional part, but I'm curious, how did the coaching training help you personally in your life?
I think it helped me just being more curious and genuinely curious and less wanting to go somewhere specifically. Be more relaxed with the unknown, which is a great skill in life.
And how did you apply, or how did it like maybe impacted your relationship after the training?
My romantic relationship?
Because you both done the training, I thought maybe it's has also supported your relationship.
I think improving my capacities to hold space, to ask questions rather than come to conclusion or projections.
Beautiful. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, thank you, Joelle. And yeah, that training was really good. So actually, what's next for you?
What is next for me? So I am hosting the training in person in Bali. It's a 5 days training. I think the next one will be in September. And then I'm also starting a new online group program in July, in the first week of July. But we're already closed the container for that one. But the next one will start in September, the online training as well. And it's 3 months. Yeah.
Amazing. And we can put the link in the descriptions also to follow you and your amazing work, Joelle. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Do you have a last share for our listeners?
Last share for the listeners. Yeah, it would be like a beautiful question to see in your life. With who in your life has been the greatest support for you? That is like a very powerful question. Like, who was it in your life that was the greatest support for you, and what kind of qualities was that person embodying? I think that is really beautiful, because when you know what is the person that supported you the most in your life, could be even a stranger that you met during traveling, you know, that was like really good at holding space, or maybe it's a family member or a friend or a coach, a professional therapist, a facilitator. Like, what are the qualities that that person is embodying, and how can you support yourself in embodying those more and more?
Amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who listened to this. Much love.
Thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please hit the like button. Now I'm Alex, and I'm passionate about supporting the rising consciousness of our planet. I do this with the podcast. We have a free group on Telegram. You can click the link in the description below to join a group and connect with other lightworkers and leaders of the new earth. Now, if you're also passionate about creating and growing your soul-aligned business, that's also a passion of mine, to support lightworkers and leaders of the new earth to do that. So I'm currently offering free sessions. If you'd like to receive that, again, you can find a link in the description, and I'll speak to you very soon. Have a beautiful day.